Hi, my name is John, and this is Business Focus. In this video, we'll be talking about the recent problems that Disney has been encountering, in particular their sub-brand NCU, which a lot of their films have been, underperforming lately, and none more so than the latest film release that they have, which is the Marvels. And obviously, not doing well, spending hundreds of millions of dollars and losing hundreds of millions is never a good thing. And obviously, this will come back to haunt you based on the trajectory that they've been on a decline ever since the conclusion of the Avengers Infinity War Endgame saga concluded. It's been all downhill all the way here. Now, could they have been, could this have been avoided, or is this inevitable because of their misguided notion that targeting a small segment of the population, pissing off the majority of the fans, the core base who is actually watching, following comic books and even the movies, are now tuning off, whether it's bad content, the direction, or even the saturation because of too many contents that they're churning out, whether it's in the movies, Disney Plus, and you have to follow certain contents to be able to watch the film, as the Marvels have shown. And having one main character is not enough; they have to have three main characters in the Marvels that even save the film. So we'll take a closer look at this one here. So, according to the article at CNBC.com, it mentions that Disney's box office problems ramped up pressure on its CEO, Bob Iger, and studio chief Alan Bergman. Now, obviously, the MCU is under the umbrella of Disney, which have made them a ton of money, a boatload of money, hundreds of billions of dollars, since its inception of releasing the Iron Man all the way to Avengers Infinity War to Endgame, and even now. But obviously, they've paid billions of dollars to have that IP. But lately, this past few years has been lackluster to say the least. And I think the low point now is the Marvel's performance, as we will discuss in a bit here. Anyway, according to the CEO Bob, who is the current helming the company, Bob Iger acknowledged last week that Disney films, since the end of the pandemic, haven't met his quality standards. Well, obviously, many of their films hasn't even break the $1 billion mark, which they have been accustomed in movies past. I think only a few films were able to break that. Spider-Man: No Way Home was able to do that, but beyond that, I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was able to reach close to it, but haven't broken that. So you could say it was okay, but still, the benchmark for reaching $1 billion marks for MCU has long passed them by. But the question is, can this trend be reverted, and what will happen to the future planned releases of future MCU films, such as you have Marvel, as obviously, which has been recently launched. You have Deadpool 3, which I think a lot of comic fans are looking forward, but based on their historical performances, somewhat, could be skeptical. Obviously, Deadpool is not made geared towards to the main core audience or to the young adult, but more on a mature audience. So you can expect it to simply outdo its counterparts and reach $1 billion in terms of box office. Then you have Inside and Out 2. The first one they did well, but I'm very suspicious now in terms of any sequel that they try to churn out here. And then you have Mufasa the Lion King. I don't know. I'm very pessimistic here how they're going to narrate that based on what they've done in the past. So we will have to wait and see if any of those future films are going to do well. The fact that the recent controversy for Disney, wherein they're trying to launch or relaunch the Snow White film with Rachel Ziegler, which has been in recent controversy of how actors that are supposed to play uh, very iconic characters are being trash because they don't believe in it, then why play the character? And getting directors, script writers to craft the storyline which they have no beliefs in it, which is a recipe for disaster waiting to happen, as the Marvels have shown. Actress that doesn't like the character, directors that doesn't like the comic genre, then they should get someone else to helm, the movie. Anyway, as mentioned here in the article, obviously for Disney, which has been it is high in terms of generating billions of dollars in the box office, and its streaming services could be misleading. And then you have their theme parks, their other products lines, ESPN doing really well, but that's only somewhat misleading because obviously they paid a lot of money to be able to have those IPs, and showcasing more films to be able to recoup their investments takes a lot of time to be able to do that, and you have to tread carefully with your audience, especially moviegoers and comic book fans alike and moviegoers alike. And that would translate well in the other products, which is key in their theme parks, because obviously many of their IPs are incorporated in their teams, which obviously if fans are pissed off, they're not going to go to their theme parks and enjoy their rides there. Anyway, going back here, as mentioned here, by the CEO Bob Iger, as I've looked at our overall output, meaning the studio, it's clear that the pandemic created a lot of challenges creatively for everybody, including us. Well, the mistake was obviously when the pandemic shut down everything, they shifted quickly, creating the Disney Plus streaming services to be able to churn out content, but obviously not thinking it thoroughly because they cannibalized their movie theatrical release, as the case with Black Widow. To the point that Scarlett Johansson, the main actress there in the film, had to sue the company, and the company paid substantial amount for breaking their agreement there. And that was the first mistake that they did. And now they're trying to capitalize on churning out more content, whether it's the film or streaming services. Some were okay, some were have high expectation, but overall, it's been a lot of misses, which they could have turned it around or capitalized on it if they've gotten the best people to do the job and the best characters that people are clamoring for. Obviously, having side characters, portrayed in a TV series or in a film is a waste of completely waste of time. I don't know. But for Black Widow, do we even need an origin story? Even the Eternals, Shang-Chi, was that even necessary? But obviously, the decision makers in Disney decided that it was necessary. And if you look at their streaming services, I think they had uh, Hawkeye on the specials, which was one of the main characters. Was that even necessary? Then they have She-Hulk, which was another debacle. Uh, they have Moon Knight. I didn't bother watching that. So a lot of B-list or C-list or D-list characters were they're trying to push and add more characters into it, which no one even clamored to for them to be narrated in in streaming and so forth. Anyways, now the focus now of the CEO now is to reduce the cost, obviously the loss that they've generated, by focusing now primarily on quality over its quantity, trying to get back to its success in previous years. Obviously, if you're one of the shareholders of the company, you're really pissed off in terms of the direction the company has been steered, been misled into focusing on not sustainable directions, such as focusing on the minority that doesn't even believe in movie making, or even the characters that they portray that they are a big fan of, that the studio should focus on. Well, guess what happens? uh, that's not the majority sentiment, and sometimes companies have to learn things the hard way. And as we can see here, it's been uh, pretty significant, if you ask me personally. And obviously, it's only accumulated in the past few years for MCU and Disney. But look at the other spectrum. If you see Warner Brothers, which has missed a lot of opportunities, missed terrible direction, incongruent storylines, characters being fired left and right. You don't know what to follow. Creating one movie with two different directors, two movies for that matter, which is a catastrophe in itself. And then a movie that's already finished, and then they scrapped it, spending close to 100 million. Batgirl, because they were afraid that it's going to flop terribly. Which, to begin with, whoever greenlighted that film should have been fired in the first place. So just see the decision making piling up in terms of wrong decision one, and that leads to another, is never a good thing. And even for the CEO is stating that he's feeling good about the direction we're headed, but I'm mindful of the fact that our performance from a quality perspective wasn't really up to the standards that we have set for ourselves. Well, I think that that's self-explanatory and an obvious one, because obviously when Shang-Chi was mentioned, who's Shang-Chi? I've never heard of that character. And the Eternals, it's one thing that if you want to introduce new main characters, but having 10 main characters in a film, how can you even follow the narrative of it or have a congruent storyline in a film in itself? And even with the Marvels having three main actors or main heroes, didn't even save them to, and if their lives depended on it, is already telling. And necessarily that there's nothing wrong with focusing on female protagonists, because there have been characters that did really well. Wonder Woman springs to mind, but obviously there has to be a core fan base as a reason. There's a need that you need to showcase in a big giant screen. Obviously, it's based on comic book characters that's been popular for so long. But if it's not that popular, why even bother? Now, obviously, She-Hulk was somewhat a popular character, but not to the level of Wonder Woman. So you have to pick and choose the stories that you're going to narrate or share to the public. And obviously, you cannot just simply gender swap also characters from one titular character that's well known for the mass, and then suddenly change it to a different role, different gender or race, to suit your narrative that you want to push. Well, guess what happens? People are pissed off because it's not what they're used to, no matter what explanation or excuses you make. Well, the bottom line will speak for themselves. People don't want to watch it, and you keep on insisting. These types of result will learn, and obviously, unless it hurts the bottom line of those companies, they will not stop doing what they're doing. And in the case of Disney, well, I think in terms of how poorly the movies has been received, is very indicative, to say the least here. Just to give you an example here, in terms of the latest box office that reached 1 billion so far, you can see here, out of the top six that you see here in the table, it's only Spider-Man's No Way Home, which is a partnership with Sony, so it's not an exclusive MCU Disney film. If you see the rest, there's none. There's no more. What I call this? None of the MCU, which I think, which is pretty telling here, that people are clamoring for different types of content, different variety. Obviously, superheroes will always still be there, but it cannot be releasing 4 5 films in a given calendar year. I think that's getting to the saturation point that people will get too tired of it. I think they should just focusing on one character, or introducing new one, or maybe have side characters in tandem with the main characters in a particular frame, similar to how they did it in Avengers. I think that would work best. I think another IP that they have, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I think there's a chance for being successful, is the rebooting of, whether it's the Fantastic Four or even the X-Men series here. So there's still a lot of narratives there that they could capitalize it if done right and done properly with the fans, comic book fans and moviegoers alike. I think they'll do fine. But if they're trying to push so many agendas, or shove it in your face, that's a bit much here. And obviously trying to I have a kids of my own, and I don't want them to be exposed in those narratives if they're not guided properly. So can be detrimental, and if families are not their main target, I don't know who's their target anymore. Obviously, you have Guardians of the Galaxy that did really well as mentioned, but it hasn't been the same for films like Elemental, Haunted Mansion, Indiana Jones, and Dial of Destiny, which were considered a big flop, right? And then you have The Little Mermaid, which did okay, but for a really known IP, the meaning which means that the animated version was much better than the live action one, and even Ant-Man was even worse, introducing Kang the Conqueror, which turned out terribly for them in terms of Mr. Major's debacles, personal troubles nowadays. So you can see here that there were high expectation here. I think a lot of people will have high expectation. Obviously, if you've been having much success for years parts for several movies, and being complacent is always the enemy here. And I think taking for granted the fans that have supported them all these years and decades, they need to start anew and scale it back, focus on the new characters. I think rebooting the main characters of Thor, Captain America, Iron Man with a new reboot, with a new storyline, similar how they did with Avengers Assemble. I think a new set of new characters, a new storyline. Maybe they could have done it, do justice with the invasions, the secret invasion with the Skrulls would have been nice, but they missed that opportunity as well. If that were to be their second phase after Infinity, but uh, I guess they have to learn things the hard way before they are going to change their ways. And obviously, it's going to impact a lot of employees, especially the top people here, which we have Alan Bergman, who is the chairman of Walt Disney Studios. If things doesn't turn out quickly, a lot of heads will be chopped off here, literally and figuratively. Only time can tell. We'll see how the rest of their lineups are going to pan out here. I'm not expecting much anymore because obviously getting too much of their content and it's not even compelling anymore, and it would be just a waste of time, spending your hard-earned money to watch terrible films on the giant screen and expecting you to pay, and then if it flops, blame you. Why didn't you watch it? Well, show me a good content, right? Show me a good time. We want to be entertained, and that's all we ask. It's a very low threshold to ask of movie makers nowadays. But anyway, I could be wrong. Leave your comments down below what you think on the situation that's happening with Disney here and for other major films as well. So I'd be pretty surprised if they haven't learned their lessons, but I won't be surprised if they'll continue in this trajectory until it hurts their bottom lines much deeper, and until heads will roll, until that before that any changes would happen. Anyway, that's it for this week. Come back again on Saturday for more business news. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.